Hello, here is another amazing tutorial from Sorry Christine. In this video, I'll be showing you how to cut and sew this stylish dress. This is a very simple one, and as you can see, one of these on the screen has a bow tie. I made this bow tie from the leftover fabric that I had, and I used about 3 yards for making this dress, and the leftover was what I used for the bow tie. You can play around with your leftover fabric. You can make a rose, you can make a bow tie, you can make some fancy flowery design, whatever rocks your boat. So if this is what you're interested in, come closer and let's do this together. But before we proceed, I would like you to hit the subscribe button to like and share this video. So I will start by measuring out the horizontal lines, that is the bust point, the under bust, and the waistline. The bust point I'm using for this dress is 10 inches, the under bust is 13 inches, and the waistline is 17 inches. Next, I'm going to take the shoulder measurement, which is 7 inches, that is 14 divided by 2. Then I'll come down from that point by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. From that 1 inch, I'll come down this way by 7.5 inches for the armhole depth. Then I'm going to take the measurement from the top of this paper down, that is 8.5 inches. Then I'm going to rule this out. This is the chest line. On this chest line, I will mark down the shoulder measurement 7 inches and connect the points together. Next, I'll take the neck width 3 inches. After marking down the 3 inches point, I'm going to connect this 3 inches mark to the shoulder slope point. Then I'll divide the armhole depth by 2. Then I'll go inward by ½ inch. On the chest line, I'll take down the quarter bust measurement. Then use my curve ruler to connect these points to draw my armhole curve. Next, I'll take the bust span line, which is 4 inches. After marking down 4 inches, I will rule this to connect the points. On the under bust line, I'm going to mark down 1.25 inches on both sides of the line. That is, I will divide 2.5 inches by 2 and mark that. Afterwards, I'll just go ahead and label this so you can understand what each line stands for. Next, I will connect the 1.25 to the bust point line. For the under bust, you can use 1.5 inches in total or 2 inches for a smaller bust. After connecting, I will go up from the chest line by 2.5 inches. Now this depends on how covered you want the over bust to be. You can go up by 1.5 inches or even 3 inches. Next, I'm just going to extend this bust span line to meet with the over bust line. After that, I'll go to the shoulder line here and divide what I have here by 2. So I have 4 inches here. I'm going to divide this by 2, so each part will have 2 inches. Next, I will connect this point on the shoulder to meet the bust point line. Then from the over bust line, I'm just going to go down by 1.5 inches so that I can draw my neckline. I'm going to use my curve ruler to draw the curve that I want on this neckline. After drawing the neckline, I will go to the bust span line and measure 0.5 inch on both sides of this line. Then I will connect each 0.5 inch to the bust point line. Once I'm done connecting this, I'll go ahead and highlight this pattern. After highlighting, I'm going to take the under bust measurement. The underbust measurement, the quarter of it is 8.5 inches. Then I'm going to add the 2.5 inches that I used for the underbust that's 11 inches. On the waistline there, I'm going to divide the 2.5 inches by 2 like I did for the underbust. Then I'm going to connect straight down from the underbust to meet with the waistline. I'm going to take down the waist measurement, which is the same as that of the underbust. So I'm going to mark down 11 inches here. Then I'll use my ruler to connect all the points together. From the bust point line here, I'm going to come down by 2 inches, which is for the bust dart. Then use my straight ruler to connect this to the bust pan line. After connecting, I'll go ahead and highlight the remaining areas. Then I will cut open these darts here so that I can close the bust darts. After closing the bust darts, I'm going to redraw the side line. Then proceed to cutting out my pattern. This 0.5 inch we have here on the over bust, I'm going to reconnect this to meet with the shoulder line. This new line we have here is what we'll be working with. The next part that I'll be drafting after this is the back pattern. But before we move to the back pattern, I would like you to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and do not forget to share. This will enable more people to see this tutorial and also encourage me to make more amazing tutorials. Now for the neckline here, I decided to go down by 0.5 inch again. I just wanted this to go a bit inward, so I'll draw the line and cut this off. Now that we are done with the front pattern, let's proceed to drafting the back pattern. For the back, I've gone ahead to roll the chest line and the waistline. The length of this waistline is 2 inches shorter than that of the front waistline because of the 2 inches that I used up for the bust darts. I'll mark down the shoulder measurement, which is 7 inches. Then from that point, I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. Next, I'll measure 7.5 inch from the shoulder slope. On the chest line, I'll mark 7 inches, which is the shoulder measurement. Then I'm just going to connect this point to draw my armhole depth line. From here, I'm going to take the neck width measurement, then connect this shoulder slope point to meet with the neck width point. Then I'll divide the armhole depth line by 2, then go inward by 0.5 inch. On the chest line, I'll mark down the quarter bust measurement, then use my curve ruler to connect these points. Next, I'll take the bust pan measurement, which is 4 inches. After marking this down, I'll use my straight ruler to connect the points together. On the waistline here, I'll mark 0.5 inch on both sides. This is for the waist darts. Then on the chest line, I'll come down by 1 inch. Then I'll draw the dart legs to create my dart. On the waistline, I'll take the quarter waist measurement, then add the 1 inch that I use up for the dart. Next, I'll use my ruler to connect these points together. Afterwards, I'll bring in the front pattern. You can see the sides match up. Then I'll use the shoulder of the front pattern to mark out the midpoint of the back pattern shoulder. You can go ahead and measure if you want to use your measuring tape. Next, from this point, I'm just going to draw a straight line from the middle of the shoulder down to meet the dart. Next, I'm going to draw a curved neckline for the back. From the chest line here, I went down by 1 inch. Then I'll just use a freehand to draw the back neckline. After drawing this, I'll go ahead and highlight this pattern. On the bust pan line here, I'm just marking 0.25 inch on both sides of the line. I'm going to use this for the tightening of this back neckline. If you don't do this, the back neckline will gape. The possibility of it gaping is high. So I'm going to do this so that this back neckline would not gape. Next, I'm just going to fold this in so that I can redraw the neckline like this. So this is a new neckline we'll be working with. After redrawing the neckline, I'll proceed to cutting out this pattern. If you have questions to ask based on this tutorial or on my previous tutorials, please do not hesitate to ask. You can drop your questions in the comment section and I'll be there to give answers. I've opened my back pattern into two, but I want this to be one. Okay, so I'm just going to glue this so that it is just one pattern for the back. Next, I'll label this back BACK and bring in the front one and label the front one front. Next, I'll be cutting the lower parts of this dress, and this is the fabric that I'll be using. I folded this fabric into two. This is the front part, so I'm just going to draw a straight line. This line is going to be my starting point. I'm going to take down the hip line measurements, which is 8 inches. Then I'm going to roll this. The next line I'm going to measure is the upper knee line, which is 18 inches. Then I'm going to take the full length, which is 30 inches. Then I'm just going to add 1.5 inches for the hem allowance. Remember, I measured 17 inches for the front waist length. 17 inches plus 13 inches, that is 47 inches in total for the gown length. I'm going to take the quarter waist measurement. I'll mark this down and add 1.5 inches for the seam allowance. Then I'll come to the hip line and mark the quarter hip measurement. After marking this down, I'll also add 1.5 inches for the seam allowance. Now to the upper knee line, I just minus 1.5 inches from the quarter hip measurement, and that gives 10.5 inches. So I'm just going to take that down. Then I'll mark the same thing I have for the upper knee, which is 10.5 inches on this line. After marking this, I'll go ahead and draw my curves connecting the hip to the waistline down to the hemline. After marking, I'll go ahead and rule the waistline seam allowance, which is 0.5 inch. Then I'll cut this. I drafted the back pattern not knowing my camera wasn't rolling. I'm just going to give a quick explanation on this. Here's the center back, which was initially a straight line. So this is the hip line and this is the upper knee line. On the upper knee line there, I went inward by 1 inch so that I can have this contour you are seeing here. And on the waistline, I went inward by 0.5 inch. Also at the hemline, I went inward by 1 inch. So the only part I didn't touch is the hip line. So this is the zipper line, which is 1 inch. Then from this zipper line, I went ahead to take the quarter measurement. After taking down the quarter measurement, I just added 1.5 inches like I did for the front pattern. So from the zipper line here, I have 10.5 inches plus the 1.5 for seam. The same thing to at the hem area. So this is pretty much easy. If you feel you cannot use this, then go ahead and cut both the front and the back pattern using the front explanation that I gave. Just fold your fabric into 4 for the front and the back and go ahead and cut them together. So for the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out the seam allowance for this back pattern. I'm using 1.5 inches for the side seam, and this is the front. I've also gone ahead to cut this out. Here is the facing for the front fabric, since I won't be using lining for this dress. To sew this, I'm going to open up each of these fabric, I'll open them up and place them this way. I've notched areas like the chest line, the bust point line, and the under bust line. Next, I'm going to place this over the middle one and ensure that each notch part of the upper fabric aligns with that of the fabric beneath it. So I'm just going to pin this up. After pinning, I'll go ahead and sew this. I'm going to do the same thing for the facing. I'll place this over it and pin as well. Now this is the back fabric. I'll open this up and bring in the back facing. I'll take one of these facing and place it on the main fabric like so. Then I'm going to sew on the neckline, just the neckline. I'm done sewing the front fabric. This is it, and here is the facing for the front. I'm going to place this facing over this and sew on the neckline. I'm done sewing the neckline. Next, I'll go ahead and notch this neckline. After notching, I'll take this to the sewing machine and sew the armhole. I won't sew the shoulder, just the armhole, and this is it. This is what we have here. I'll bring in the back fabric so that we can sew the shoulders together. Now, if you want a very neat finishing for the shoulders, watch this very closely. See the way I place the front fabric over the back one. So I'm going to use the facing of the back to close this up. The main fabric of the front is facing the main fabric of the back, while the facing of the back one is used to wrap them close. So I've just pinned this and I'm going to push in the front fabric inward. Then I will sew the armhole of the back. Now this is what I mean. I'm going to open up this facing and place the front one on this back fabric. Then use the facing of the back to wrap this up. Once I pin this down, I'm going to push the front fabric inward so that I can sew the armhole of this back one. So I will sew the armhole and also the shoulder of this. I'm done sewing and this is what we have. I'm trying to turn this so that you can see what it looks like. So if you have watched to this point and you have not liked this video, please hit that like button, share this video, and do not forget to subscribe. Here is what we have after turning this dress. See how beautiful it looks. Next is to join the lower part of this gown to this. Now this is the front part. I'm going to fold this into two and notch the midpoint. I'll take the front part of this fabric too. I'll notch the midpoint. After notching the midpoint, I'll place this right side facing right side on this lower fabric and I'll sew along this area. I'll do the same thing for the back. I'll bring in the lower back fabric and I'll place them over this right side facing right side, and I'm going to sew them along that area. I'm done sewing the upper area to the lower area, so we have our full length gown. Next is to join the sides together. So I'm going to open the facing like this and I'm going to pin this down, ensuring that all the lines are matching up. I'll go to the waistline and pin this part as well. When pinning, you want to make sure that the line on the front is laying directly on that of the back. So I'm just going to sew 1.5 inches, which I left for the seam allowance. With the sides all sewn, I want you to take a look at these. All the lines are matching up, that is the front and the back areas. Now this is the facing. I sew the facing separate, so I'm just going to fold it inward like this. I'll fold the side inward too. This is it. I'm going to be facing the zipper, but before I do that, I'm going to fold this way to bring the center back together. Next, I'm going to align this waistline together. Then I will pin this up. After pinning, I'll match the facing of this back fabric together and fold this inward so that I can measure from the top. From this top, I'm going to take the measurement for the zipper length. Then I'm going to mark this down. Next, I'll go to the hem of this gown. I'm going to measure upward 1.5 inches for the hem allowance here. Then from this hem allowance, I will go upward for the slit opening by 10 inches. The leftover area is where I would sew. See where I'm pointing from this part to this other part. I will sew there. I'm just going to mark 1 inch, which is for the allowance I left at the center back. I've gone ahead to sew this, and this is the result. I've fixed in my zipper. This is it. When fixing your zipper, make sure that the waistline on both sides of the back are well matched up, and here is the slit at the back. I left 12 inches for the slit opening instead of the initial 10 inches that I marked. Now for the slit, I'm going to fold this slit inward. See the way I will fold this. After folding, I'm going to use my sewing machine to sew along this area. Then I'll go ahead and hem the base of this gown. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.